The only interesting thing that's happened in the MLB in probably the last 2 years is that the Hall of Fame talk has come back around. David Ortiz was the only player selected by the Hall of Fame voters with 77.9% of the vote. Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, and Kurt Schilling fail to reach the 75% votes needed. Do you think that Clemens, Bonds, and or Schilling deserve to get in? We'll start with Jim. No, Muff. We'll start with Muff.
Let them all in. If we can profit with the Bonds, Sammy Sosa home run derby season, or Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, if we can profit off of all of that and Bonds mixed in there, Clemens with the Yankees and Schilling in the catch-up game, if we can profit and improve the stance of MLB with their negotiations, with their TV talks, with their TV deals, then we can let these guys into the Hall of Fame. So if we're going to make money off of them on the front end, can we not just, toss a little bone their way?
Jim.
I said this on Twitter, and I will just read my tweet. The whole Hall of Fame process is petty. Baseball is pretentious and boring. The goal is to entertain, and they are hanging on to old traditions and unwritten code, and it's a bunch of messed up rules in an attempt to make it feel like the old days and times that are forgotten. I'm with Muff. Let them all in. They all made money off these guys. Everybody got rich. Let them get in. Let them have their moment to shine.
Here's the thing. I'm sorry, Alex. I'm going to interject after this. It's the writers. These are journalists.
Yes.
That are deciding who gets in and who doesn't get in. And I get it. That's like baseball purists, and there's the people, not even the guys. There's the people that you want to have with the gate, the lock and the key. Like they're like the person at the troll at the bridge. Like none shall pass.
That's the best way to call them, trolls at the bridge.
But the troll told to get into this boy's soul.
That's it. So why are they doing that? Now I get it. There's like this. There's a players like an old timey players that have some final say in this, but I don't know if they've ever gone. I'm sure they have, but there's been like they don't go against what the journalists do, because they know if they do that they're going to be just absolutely destroyed in the media. So get the media people out of there. We don't need them.
I'm going to make my one piece of what I thought about the whole thing, and then we're moving on. But I think that they should be I think the Hall of Fame is a museum. I think it memorializes the history of baseball, who made contributions to baseball. All three of them clearly made contributions to baseball. I think there should be a asterisk, and I think they shall be lumped together in an area that says basically great baseball players accused of using PEDs. I don't think that you leave out that part of history of baseball. I think that era of all of this coming out was a historical part of baseball, and I think it could be there with their accolades, with their statistics, and also a little brief summary of why was this controversial. That's just my thought. We're moving out of baseball, though. That was plenty of baseball for everyone for the week.
On the grounds that you're the scorekeeper, I'm going to let you be, but I do want to say, like, why be an asterisk if you're just going to have a section for it? Like, if it's the Hall of Fame, like, forget the asterisk, just say, this is the steroids era. And
that's fine. I mean? I think that was what I meant by an asterisk.
Okay.
Like,
I feel like they've made asterisk a dirty word.
Yeah, I guess you're right. So I think I was just meaning. Yeah.
I don't mean to offend you when I say that, scorekeeper.
Thank you. I appreciate your differential behavior to my opinion being right.
Thank you.
And I will take that into consideration should you err from the path.
Thank you.
Moving to the NBA.
Somebody's nose just got a little browner.
Moving down to Dribble Town. Sorry, I don't think I'll ever say that.
That was good. I'll take it.
That was good. You liked it? Okay. I kind of liked it. I looked and I didn't know, and I immediately apologized before I moving on to. Okay, good. I'm not going to write that one out. James Harden. James Harden's talking trade in the offseason, and teams around the league are already saying that an investigation should happen if he lands with the 76ers because of a friendship with the 76ers president of basketball operations from his time in Houston and being friends with owner Michael Rubin. Is this a cause for concern, Jim?
No. No. You mean to tell me that one basketball player is friends with some people in management? Really? Really? LeBron James wasn't friends with Jeannie Buss? These guys aren't friends with these people? Like, come on. Let's get over that kind of stuff. In fact, the NBA should probably get rid of this tampering and investigations and all this stuff. And let's get over that end of it. And let's just let them be. Let them make the moves. We've seen what super teams do. They fall apart. More super teams have failed than have succeeded. Get over this stuff.
Muff, rebuttal.
If he lands with the 76ers, what again? I have to kind of agree with Jim on this. Why is this the flag that we're willing to hold our ground on? Why is this the Waterloo? Why is this, that great stand you want to take? GMs have relationships with players to some degree, or with their agents. We wouldn't be saying this if it was James Harden's agent with this relationship, but because it's the player, we have a bigger problem with it.
I think that it's a business, and if I'm friends with the guy that owns a big company down the road, that's just called marketing and networking. That's the word I meant, not marketing. I was so proud of that point too. Damn it. I almost landed it. Networking.
I would just wrap it all up with business.
Business. Okay. Sorry.
Business ethics.
Business ethics. Moving on to more James Harden talk, kind of. He's out right now with a hand strain. KD's out with his MCL problem. Kyrie is only available on the road. Is this a mega team that never was? Muff.
This is a mega team that never got to be. So yes, if that's the statement, that they never were, because they never had a chance to actually be that team. So yeah, they never were, because nobody's ever been healthy, and James Harden did all that work to get out of Oklahoma City, and look where it got him, trying to get to Philadelphia.
I agree with the Muff. And this is weird, we're agreeing a lot. I want to counterpoint it back at Muff and say, do we blame this on just COVID? Do we blame this on personalities, or is this bad luck?
All of the above.
Okay.
COVID, obviously, that has a huge bearing on Kyrie Irving's situation.
Mm-hmm.
Bad luck with James Harden and Kevin Durant.
Okay. But do you think the personalities have a factor in any of this?
I want to say that, yeah, there's some personality clash with Kyrie and Kevin Durant to some degree. James Harden seems to have stayed on the outside of that whole situation. Like, you don't see him come up, but we all know Kevin Durant doesn't hold back with his thoughts, whether it's on his real Twitter or his burner. So
fair.
Moving on, still staying in basketball land, we got
this league.
LeBron James flew back to LA for knee treatment. MRI showed general swelling, and he is now out for the foreseeable future. Coach Vogel said that he will be out as long as there's swelling. He is 37 years old. Muff? Or Jim? Muff?
I'll take it.
Jim, have at it.
So he's never playing again? Because if he's out for the foreseeable future, as long as there's swelling there, and he's 37 years old, there's going to be swelling. Like, he's not coming back, guys. We're worried about Brady. Let's worry about LeBron. Because if that's the diagnosis, is he's not coming back until the swelling's gone, we've seen the last of LeBron James.
So he says that, but okay, no, Muff, go ahead. Let me take my moderator role first.
We talk so much about coaches leaving their teams or not flying back with their teams. LeBron, I'm gonna say, left his team, but does he have to go back to LA to get all this treatment? I understand he's got his people, his doctors, and his whole situation like back in LA
that can fly to him,
right? That can come to him wherever he wants them to be. But it's okay if LeBron James leaves his team because it's LeBron James. But we would be all up in arms when Urban Meyer stayed in Columbus and got a
Well,
happy-go-lucky
are we
dance.
comparing the two? I mean,
Yeah, I think that's a little loose argument, but I get where you're going.
I'm just saying, like, a coach stays back and it's uproar. I understand this is the NBA versus the NFL because the NFL has one game a week. The NBA has multiple games a week over multiple months in that way. So I don't know. I think that's the bigger story here for me initially. Now, if his knee continues to be an issue, then my narrative that it's the geriatric Lakers just continues to build on itself, and I'm okay with it.
here's my
I want a counterpoint,
Okay.
moderator.
Sorry, I have. Go ahead.
Alex, minus points for him interrupting.
No, that get my get out of jail free card, please.
That is okay. Wait, we're even.
We have one
Muff,
of those?
I agree with you.
You earned one.
I agreed with you up until the point where you started comparing Urban Meyer and that whole mess. I agree.
You have to use extremes to make the example.
I understand. I agree with flying. I think you should be awarded a point for this topic here. I concede 1 point. The geriatric league, obviously you've been on that. I agree that I think that the flying out thing and why do you have to go home? I don't understand for 1 second. At 37 years old, we're not NBA players, okay? Which means we should be in worse shape if we go play ball. Like, we go play basketball, we're probably down for a hot minute. He's 37 years old in the prime of what a 37-year-old could be. Isn't there supposed to be swelling?
Well, whenever you let the medical degenerate talk, he has some things he'd like to say.
But like, Muff's kind of like, I want to know what Muff thinks.
About what? Somebody that age having issues with
Yeah.
their knee and swelling? I mean, he's not Patrick Ewing on the sideline who used to ice up his whole body, especially when he was like in his 40s playing. Like LeBron James, you do see him at the end of the game with ice. Like, that's normal. That's part of, as you get older, it's less about weight training and stuff like that, and it's more about pliability. That's the TB12 method, right? Tom Brady hasn't gotten more muscular over time. He's taking more time on recovery and more time in allowing his body to absorb hits rather than give the hits. So
I would let the coach say what he said. That's another point. But go ahead, Alex.
I think that, first of all, I think that if LeBron James wants a special treatment, he does fly back. I don't think the doctor flies to him because that doctor has more patience than just LeBron James. I'm sure of it. And while you can say LeBron James can afford a private doctor, can he? I mean, that's A, you fly back the doctor. B, the doctor has to find a facility and you have to pay for the facility that he can apply this treatment in. C, does he have any kind of staff he needs? Anything like that? Do they all fly back with him? I mean, someone who works in the medical field, like I work with surgeons. I don't know any of them that, like, I guess reasonably for the practice that you're maintaining, if you're getting patients of the caliber of LeBron James, you have other star athletes in that area. So for him to say, okay, I have 3 guys on the LA Kings coming to me for treatment. I have, Cooper Cup type players coming to me in LA. Like they aren't going to be happy if he says, let me uproot and go back to LeBron across. Yeah. I mean, so I don't think that I don't think I agree with that part of the argument. The old age and the swelling, I want to know what he means by swelling. Because yes, older people always have some degree of inflammation and degenerative changes in your joints. Is he talking like when the outward swelling is down and his pain is relieved that he will go back? Because that's reasonable. Swelling's going to go up and down. I think he's always going to have some, if he has like a degenerative type inflammatory change, probably going to take a little longer if we're waiting for that to all resolve. Because over time, we see wear and tear naturally on the body. 37 is kind of young, but you would start seeing some degenerative changes, especially if you think how much he uses his body. I mean, like, my knees are probably not as worn out as someone who plays sports like that. I think it's the same argument we hear whenever NFL players are like, I got to retire because I want to be able to like run around and play with my kids someday. I don't want to be so beat up and sore that I can't. I also kind of wonder in this situation, what if all these fancy like knee replacements and like implants and stuff? What if he just like was like, okay, I'll just get an artificial knee. We'll make it work.
But can you play at that caliber? Like, I think you make great points, but can you play at that caliber with that kind of
Yeah, I don't know.
replacement?
Bo Jackson has already shown us that you can't play at the same caliber.
No,
Will
and you
Jackson
can't.
was at how long ago? Like,
Yeah.
medicine has moved on.
Well, yeah, and you get different like implants with different like degrees of range of motion. So it would depend. I don't know that answer, but if it was something that was going to sideline him forever, but I think that saying he's done forever because of this is probably slim. I think what he's saying is the Lakers ain't too great. I'm not going to push him back and see an older person who has a slower recovery time get more injured when it's not really necessary right now.
I'm gonna call. I know a person, and I will look into the whole knee replacement playing pro basketball conversation. And
I
I'll
like
bring
it.
back to us.
I like it. I like your willingness to recon.
Yeah.
Good job, Jim.
Brown noser.
What?
Or we could let the medical degenerate do the recon as a medical professional.
Teacher, I would like to do some extra credit.
But I'll take that burden off of him.
Okay, now we're fishing a little. All right, we're moving out of basketball before we get ourselves in trouble. We're moving on to hockey. The New York Rangers fans threw literal trash onto the ice after a goal that would have tied the game against the Minnesota Wild with 1 second remaining in regulation, but was called off for goalie interference. The initial explanation was that the attacking players pushed the goalie into the net, which would categorize as goalie interference. Officials took a look at the play, and when the call on the ice was confirmed, all hell broke loose. Thoughts, Muff?
I mean, New York fans. I don't know what else I need to say. Just as bad as Philadelphia fans, and it's the Rangers. I mean, I don't know. It's hockey.
You just alienated two fan bases.
Oh yeah, I don't definitely Philly. Like, get out of here. We don't need you anyway. As a Pittsburgh person, and New York, I mean, it's whatever. Get out of here. Yeah.
No. Jim, thoughts?
Wow. So,
Thoughts, Jim.
I understand the frustration of the New York fan, and I think showing your disgust by throwing trash on the ice, as long as you didn't injure anyone and the intent wasn't to harm anyone.
Oh Jesus, he's judging intent again. If you're throwing trash on the ice, why else you doing it?
I'm okay with it.
You want to hit somebody.
Let it ride.
Okay. This isn't cabbage being thrown on the ice, Jim.
Let it ride.
Let it ride. Get out of here.
What was your take on the Tennessee trash throwing? I forget.
Oh, I hated it.
Okay, so why is this trash throwing?
They were trying to hit Lane Kiffin in the head with a battery.
So what do you think the intent behind them throwing trash was?
They were just upset, wanted to put.
So how do you
trash on
feel
the
for the
ice.
poor janitor who's not making very much, has to go out on the ice and clean all that up? That's what I'm thinking. My mind's like, that's an a-hole move. I'd be like, come down here and get what you did. Come get your mess.
Yeah, it's on ice. You can just sweep it into the corner
And then what?
done. Then you just swoop it all into the can.
This man just supported trash throwing onto the ice. He supported littering. Jim is a supporter of litter.
What did you say about the trash throwing? You said that the fans, you were
said, New York and Philly, what are you going to do?
I expected it. This is expected.
He wasn't against it per se.
Yeah,
He said, that's what those people do.
I don't know that I necessarily
whoa.
in trash throwing. Basically, this is coming down.
I'm not in support of it.
You agree with me, and you lose points if you don't. All right, moving on. More hockey talk. Arizona Coyotes are looking for a new home after talks with the city of Glendale fell through. They are now in talks to go to Arizona State University and use their facility for the next 3 or 4 seasons, while the club awaits approval to build a new arena in Tempe. I never know how to say this. Tempe, I think so. The big issue is that it's being reported that 5,000 seat floor plan at Arizona State's to be completed arena may need to be reduced to 3,200 in order to house NHL games. That's well below the acceptable standard. And for a comparison, the Winnipeg Jets have the NHL's smallest arena by capacity. That will fit well over 15,000 fans. Jim?
this to me is the craziest sports thing that has happened in a while. Like, it's not getting a lot of play, which is why I kind of put hockey in the quick thoughts. So they got turned down by a city for their new stadium. They said, "Oh crap, we have to get a stadium real quick." They got a deal brokered with Arizona State to use their stadium that isn't built yet, so they can be housed in a facility that's going to seat 3,200 people, and the NHL's cool with this because it's a transition thing. While their stadium gets built, maybe in Glendale, and the smallest stadium in the NHL holds 15,000.
This would be
Like,
1/5 of that.
how does that How does that work? Like their fan base, their revenue that they're going to generate, all of that's going to go to the dumper. This to me is chaos. Like, this to me should kill your organization. I don't understand how this economically works out.
Muff?
3,200 is about right size for the amount of people that are going to Arizona Coyotes games. So I feel like this is like, you're going for, if we can sell out every game, then we can make it look good.
But if you got turned down, I'm sorry, Muff, are you done?
Yeah, all I'm saying is I don't think the Arizona market is huge on the hockey.
So why even have a team at this point after you go through all those trials and tribulations? If you got turned down by a city, why have a team?
That's on the NHL. That's not on the Arizona situation. That's not on the ownership.
Right. So, like, why if the NHL doesn't step in and go, okay, this is embarrassing.
Where else are they going to go? We have a team in North or South Dakota.
Do we need to have a team in that market?
They're not going to get rid of a team, but what market are you going to go to? That's what I'm saying. Like,
well, we can have two in LA. The NFL does it.
While I appreciate the enthusiasm for NHL hockey talk, I think I have to institute my moderator rule of getting not as quick thought there.
Okay.
Gong.
Okay. Gong. Oh, you're right. I forgot the noise. Gong. Moving on to football. It was announced on Saturday that Tom Brady was retiring. His agent comes out and says, you'll only hear that from Tom, and he's far away from making a decision. Is this a major screw up by sports media? Or is there something more from Tom's team that we aren't privy to? Muff?
First off, sports media now is all about getting there first. And it doesn't matter if you're wrong, because as long as you're right at some point, or you're reporting okay information and it's not outside, it's not like somebody has an arrest situation, like that you're not tarnishing their reputation. As long as you're not doing that, then you can be okay. Adam Schefter's been wrong a couple times in the past year. Guess what? He's still the number one guy because people still flock to him for the news, because he's putting something out almost daily at this point about what's going on in the NFL. I want to say that somebody in Tom's team leaked something. And whatever, Tom's got to figure that out. There's the meme right now that it's, it was Giselle that made an anonymous phone call and said, Tom's retiring, don't call this number back, in order to get this ball rolling. That's a meme. That's not real life. But somebody in Tom's team did something outside of this, because I can't see Tom releasing that on conference championship weekend. He's got better timing to make this work. I don't think that's the day.
That's fair. Jim?
While I think your take on the sports media is accurate, I don't think it's great. Like, I don't think that stance is great by the media. It's okay to be right 80% of the time, as long as you're first. Okay, fine. I think that someone leaked it in his camp. I think this is going to have the reverse effect. I think Tom's going to come back despite these reports. I think he's going to say, oh, now I'm going to prove you wrong and come back another year. I think that's going to be, I think we're going to goat the GOAT into coming into play.
Any rebuttal to that, Muff?
Goat the GOAT. Let it be written.
All right, Antonio Brown. Good old AB has shared a picture of himself in a Ravens jersey. What do we think about that fit for Brown? If not the Ravens, give me another team. Jim?
Oh, I like to see Harbaugh manage Antonio Brown. Number one, I think who's the quarterback?
Action Jackson, Lamar.
Lamar, yeah. Lamar and Antonio Brown would be fun to watch for a while until Antonio lost it again. I don't want to see him back in the NFL. I just don't.
I think that's a fair take. Muff, thoughts?
Antonio Brown wouldn't be able to survive in Baltimore. And when I say that, I mean Lamar Jackson is not known as the most accurate passer in the world.
Right.
And if Antonio Brown can get upset playing with Tom Brady, not necessarily because of Tom Brady's throwing to Antonio Brown or not throwing to him, how pissed is he going to be when Lamar Jackson overthrows him 2 or 3 times a game when he's not wide open, but open in NFL standards? And not to mention, he would then be also competing with his cousin for catches,
Oh, yeah.
Hollywood Brown.
Hollywood Brown. Did not think of that one. Any rebuttal, Jim?
No, it was great. Fantastic job.
Fantastic job. All right, let's talk AB just a little more. He's planning to sue the Bucks for defamation as well as for playing him when he said he was too injured. Do you think this will go anywhere? And what do you think the outcome will be? Muff?
This will gain traction just because it's Antonio Brown. If there was an issue with this, I think it would already be out like fully in the mainstream. He's had interviews, but he also had interviews with like Bryant Gumbel on a second tier network. Now, do I think that Antonio Brown is not going to get an ESPN to really pick up a story until it's a story? Yeah, I don't think ESPN wants any of that until they know that there's more than just him saying it. Like there's some MRI or X-ray or text message. And if he hasn't tossed that smoking gun out yet, then it's not there. And this is going to go by the wayside in 2 months.
Agreed.
I think that it will gain some legs. I think that there will be a settlement. And I think it has nothing to do with the injury, but I think the defamation thing I think because Bruce Arians ran his mouth a little bit too hard. And I think there's a little bit of bite in that, and they'll end up paying or settling some way with AB.
Okay. Any thoughts, Muff? Any rebuttal?
Yeah. That's reasonable.
Wait, what did Muff say?
I said that's reasonable.
You almost robbed me of a great moment, Alex.
Do you want to clip that?
I might.
Every morning when Jim makes a decision.
That's reasonable.
I think that could lead us down a bad road for Jim. All right. Davante Adams saying he wants $30 million annually in his new contract. How is this going to impact his future with the Packers? And will this have any impact on what the Packers are going to do with Aaron Rodgers? Muff?
I think it's me.
Jim?
I think it will have I think you're looking at it backwards. I think they're more willing to keep Davante Adams and they'll give him the money, and I think they're willing to part with Aaron Rodgers first.
Muff?
Aaron Rodgers has already said that he is going to make his decision to allow Davante Adams time to make his decision. So the Aaron Rodgers is going to come before Davante Adams, and the Packers are going to allow that to play out because they want to know, are we going to have the ability to franchise tag Davante Adams? And they know that if Aaron Rodgers stays, there's a better opportunity for that franchise tag opportunity to come up. So Aaron Rodgers' decision is going to impact what the Packers are willing to do in the Davante Adams situation.
If you're the Packers, do you want Aaron Rodgers around anymore?
Yes.
You've lost
because
coaching staff.
Well, yeah, I get that, but you have a non-proven entity in your current backup quarterback, and you've got to believe that there would be a lot less talk about trying to keep Aaron Rodgers or potentially keep Aaron Rodgers if they felt confident what they had in Jordan Love.
I would cut him and run. I know that's crazy, but I would cut him and run and start going towards the future.
I was just going to say that. What's your alternative? because they aren't going to have a high draft pick.
They got a quarterback.
Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Jordan Love isn't Aaron Rodgers behind Brett Favre. That's all I'm saying.
You just build. Enough of the drama with Aaron Rodgers. Let that be somebody else's burden.
Drama. All right. Jim's favorite topic, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger has announced his retirement. And then in Art Rooney's end-of-year presser, he shares that GM Kevin Colbert will be leaving after the draft. What does the future look like in Pittsburgh? Muff?
The future is, again, the picture of a stable organization who is saying, hey, GM, who's been here through thick and thin and brought us with Mike Tomlin to how many consecutive winning seasons, or non-losing seasons, I should say, at least. Stay on for the draft while we interview some internal candidates and figure out if we want to let you groom anybody all the way through until the end of the draft. Big Ben announces retirement. Everybody knew that was coming. The question will come to be, who is the next quarterback? Mason Rudolph's in the picture. They've said Dwayne Haskins is going to be there to compete for a starting spot against, I would imagine, hopefully not just Mason Rudolph. I hope. So, and Art Rooney, end of year pressers, as always, just shows the picture of stability and fastness within ownership. Steadfastness within ownership. So the future in Pittsburgh is as it always has been. The expectation will be a winning season next year.
Jim?
No response.
All right. College sports. I like that Jim took the if you have nothing nice to say, say nothing at all method there. College sports. All right. We have SEC women's basketball scorer Ricky Jackson enters the transfer portal. Jackson has had 3 coaches in the last 3 seasons, sharing that she wants out for mental health reasons. Do you think this is going to lead to more women athletes making these types of moves? Jim?
I don't know that this necessarily. Yeah, sure. I don't know that this is necessarily a male-female thing. I just think that if you have 3 coaches in the last 3 seasons, yeah, I would enter the transfer portal too. Like, why not? And I think if the transfer portal is not similar to football, then that needs changed in basketball. That's not fair to this kid. It's not fair to any of these kids. The coaches can hop, skip, and jump. The kids should too.
Muff?
I think so. I think this paves the way for more female athletes to consider this. And the reason is the higher profile players. You got to remember, she's leading the SEC in scoring right now. You're not typically going to see this at a major men's conference in college basketball, because most of those players that are leading the conference are probably going to be going to the NBA. It's not often when you see a female player leave school early to go to the WNBA draft. So I think this does set a precedent for finding the situation that works best for you, and potentially finding an NIL opportunity that allows you to actually make money while you're in college, knowing that, at least for now, the opportunities post-college in the WA are not as high as far as money compared to the NBA.
All right. Any rebuttal, Jim? You like that?
That was good.
All right. J.R. Smith, former NBA player turned collegiate golf coach.
Golfer.
He went back. Oh. J.R. Smith, former NBA player turned collegiate golfer for NCAA, has signed an NIL deal with Excel Sports. How will this further his goal to serve as a bridge to the sport of golf for underrepresented minority groups? Jim?
This is Muff's dream come true. This is what Muff's been hoping for. This is fantastic. I think this is the best news ever. I concede my time to Muff because this is like everything we've been talking about. So go ahead, Muff.
J.R. Smith went back to school to get his degree, said, I'm going to play golf and I'm going to go to an HBCU because he could go anywhere he wants to. Let's be honest. Who's not going to welcome J.R. Smith outside of maybe like, the Texases of the world who have all of the top golfers and they're all going potentially to the PGA Tour playing professionally somewhere. J.R. Smith is the dream come true for North Carolina A&T, for HBCUs, and for, at this point, college golf, because guess who we're not talking about right now? We're not talking about that number one player from Texas who plays in the U.S. Amateur and is one of the top 3 or 4 players in college golf for under 18 or under 22. We're talking about J.R. Smith getting this deal, showing underrepresented minority groups, which is from the start what he said, is he wants to bridge the sport, the golf sport gap for underrepresented minority groups. And he continues to do that and serves as a positive poster person, role model, and picture of opportunity moving forward for people of color in the golf world, and especially in order to potentially capitalize on a college education, college scholarships, and NIL opportunities.
Well done.
Well said, Muff. I like it. Sorry that I don't know more about golf to feed you, but that was well spoken. I feel like you wrote that out ready for this kind of moment.
Right? This was his time to shine.
You have to write it out when you've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's all
how
up
long
there.
we've been doing it? A year almost?
Yeah, it's been sitting there ready to go.
All right. The Big Ten. It's in discussions to eliminate divisions in football. If the college football playoff expands beyond its current 4-team format as expected, the Big Ten could make adjustments to give it the best opportunity to have the most success in the college football playoff. The changes under consideration would be getting rid of divisions and returning to an 8-game conference schedule. NCAA rules require divisions for conferences with 12 or more schools in football, although the Big Ten would almost certainly be able to petition this for a waiver. I'll let Jim go back again because he deferred his time.
Oh my God. Let me tell you. So, this is all a clever ploy to get more teams into the college football playoff, which is great. I'm all for the Big Ten. I'm a Big Ten homer. I think Muff could say the same. I get it. The SEC has got their powerhouses in, and Ohio State and Michigan are like your only 2 that have represented Michigan State one time. But what are we going to do when it's still the same outcome? So, yeah, we got our 8 teams playing each other, and that'll open the door for our alliance with the Pac-12. We can schedule them as our cross-conference opponents. But it's still the same shakeout that doesn't help us get new teams in there. Your Penn State, your Michigan, your Ohio State, sometimes Wisconsin, are going to be your teams on the map. And so now in the conference championship, because that's really the issue, that's why they're angry, is the East has been crushing the West for 6 years straight. Now the championship will be Penn State versus Ohio State, Michigan versus Ohio State, maybe Michigan versus Penn State. And all those teams that have been out in the cold, it just got a little bit colder.
Muff?
It's cold in here. There must be no more conference championships in the atmosphere.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. It's the Big Ten trying to continue to remain ahead of the curve, but we all know that Kevin, Jim's favorite human being, has not led them to the promised land, and I don't expect him to start doing it now.
No.
So just a lot more of what has been. There's nothing that's going to change, at least in the next 5 to 10 years, the SEC's dominance of the situation. And if we're being honest, Alex, and I apologize, the Big 12 is going to be a lot of the same. They're going to back one horse all the way to the end and hope they get him in there.
That's it. That is absolutely it. And I think, I don't know. 1, this is an argument for let's get rid of these stupid conferences. 2, with all this blow up of the Big 12 and people shopping around to jump into other conferences, how about we make it more enticing then? If we're going to keep this conference model around, let's start bringing in teams that are worth it. Let's get Notre Dame to finally buy in. Let's make it worth their time. Let's not let Cincinnati join the Big 12. Let's get WVU where they belong, which is not in the Big 12. Let's start making powerhouse conferences that matter. Forget Rutgers and Maryland and all these piddly-wink teams. Let's put WVU back in a real conference. Let's put big league teams together and say, damn it, we're done with the SEC being the powerhouse. We're going to build a powerhouse. And so it's competitive again.
Okay. I like that. I like all of those takes. I think that was a good explanation. We're going to move on to our final quick thoughts topic, which we hinted at in the opening of this podcast. Jeff Garcia. Jeff Garcia has come out and expressed his feelings about Mina Kimes from ESPN's take on Jimmy G as a successful quarterback in the NFL. He's questioned how anyone who hasn't played in the NFL can have a platform to speak on these topics. He's added she has never thrown a pass, let alone a touchdown. Jeff has made some other radio appearances after this and doubled down, while also hanging up on one radio station when he was pressed on this topic, indicating that he owes no one an apology. Thoughts on the situation, Muff?
If Jeff Garcia can come at Mina Kimes for having an opinion, having never thrown a professional pass, what makes Jeff Garcia a savant or somebody that we should pay attention to on a microphone? Mina Kimes has put her time in. She's well respected. She has risen through the ranks, despite probably a lot of barriers that are present to her. And she came, I remember first seeing Mina Kimes in Highly Questionable with Dan Le Batard and Poppy. Like, that's the first time I remember seeing Mina Kimes. And that helped propel her through the ranks of ESPN, again, despite Dan Le Batard and everything that went wrong in that situation. And has continued to offer sound takes, opinions, and well supported by people in the league and around the sports media situation. Sarah Spain came out and was very much in support, and came out and because people were like, oh, Sarah Spain, how did you get here? It's because you know somebody, or because you have a look about you. And actually one guy even went as far to say, I don't know how jokingly or if this was somebody being real, that she got her start because she looked like a stripper or something like that, or was a stripper. So she came out and was like, sure, yeah, my stripper name was Jugs Machine, and the only reason I'm here is because my dad knew somebody that was in the NFL, blah blah blah. So Sarah Spain came out, and if you're looking at the golf world, somebody like Amanda Balionis as well, well respected by the players on the tour and the PGA Tour and stuff like that. So Jeff Garcia, if your talent was throwing a football and you can't do it anymore, then stop trying to find your new talent of bringing a take on somebody who has a lot more of experience than you. So get off the microphone and let her do her thing, unless you want to get back in the league and start throwing interceptions again.
Nice. Jim.
So I agree with a lot of what Buff said. I have an issue with, if you're Jeff Garcia and you're going to take this take, you can't run from it. You can't hang up on an interview. You have to sit there and own it. You have to stay in the pocket, Jeff, and take your licks if you're going to come hard. You can say you don't owe anybody an apology. It is your opinion. You are entitled to it. But to run from it, and when you're getting hammered, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, Jeff. Now, this is where I'll probably get the firing squad and lose my points. There is some validity to questioning someone's opinion who hasn't done something. Yes, you can cover something as an observer for years. If someone says to me, Jim, you never played an ounce of football, yet you're doing a podcast, you're correct. If someone says to me, Jim, you've never hit a golf ball very well, at least, yet you're talking about golf, you're correct. Like, that is a fair opinion. So if my take on football offends you because I didn't do those things, you're entitled to that opinion. The same way that, like, there's a reason why I bring gurus, or Muff and I bring gurus on this show, is to get somebody who's done the job. Now, does that mean what Jeff Garcia said was fair and accurate, and the tone in which he attacked Mina Kimes was fair? Absolutely not. But there is, however minute, validity to questioning her opinion had she having her not thrown a ball. I get a little bit of that. He's not right. He is an asshat. But I think there is some validity going, hey, man, like Jim, you're not good at basketball. You've never played an ounce of basketball in your life. How much validity is your take on this? I agree with that. I think that's fair.
I'm not going to take a point from you there. I do think I see your point. I think there was a way to go about this that was completely wrong on how he did it. If he would have said something, and then when they called him out on it and said how offensive what he said was, and he was like, oh, well, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant I disagreed with her point. She hasn't played football. That was kind of like the opinion thing, but he was clearly being an a-hole about the situation.
Right. When you turn it to a chauvinist thing, like, she's a female.
Exactly.
You're an idiot.
Because there's a lot of men that have never played football.
Correct.
Stephen A.
Yes.
Correct.
It has nothing to do with being a girl. It has to do with never playing football.
The same with us. I mean, there are sports Muff and I have never played, yet, like, we talk about them. If you want to call us on it, go ahead. But if you're
and I'll say, come tell me why I'm wrong.
Right. But if you're going to say, well, you can't speak on it because you're a male, or you can't speak on it because you're a female, well, you're an idiot.
Truth. All right, we're breaking down the points for this week's Quick Thoughts. I think that we have an actual winner this time.
Hey.
All right. So let's start with the first points that were awarded. Muff got a -1 for his comparison of Urban Meyer. That situation got weird. A little much for me. But so there was a -1 there. I go based on feel while I'm going. Jim got a +1 for his willingness to recon the ACL situation. Whether or not he really does, we don't know, but he was willing to participate. Jim then got a -1 later in the day for supporting trash throwing.
That's fair.
Muff got a positive for his comment about how men's basketball transfer portals aren't as relevant because they go to the NBA. I had never thought of that. I thought that was a good point. He got a +1. So then you both got another +1. Muff got a +1 for his rant on the golfing stuff.
Oh, whoa. That's a rant?
Felt like, not a rant, but like Jim didn't talk. So I think I was like, it was like a build-up expressive speech, not a bad rant. That was a negative connotated word, but it was a nice thing. Jim got a +1 for being minorly supportive of WVU by saying that they should go to a better conference. That is always a way to my heart. Now, here's the final kicker. Who lost a point, and therefore this week's Quick Thoughts, and why? Muff. You lost a point for attacking the Big 12. I get that from Jim. I do. But I was shocked out of that behavior from you. So this week's Quick Thoughts winner is Jim.
Got him.
I had to start finding a way to give someone a point because I was like, oh shit, it's gonna end in a tie again, and at some point I have to quit doing that.
Love it.
You fell right into when I was starting to get real picky, and you kind of shit on the Big 12 a little.